All right. Hello, everyone. This is Kevin, the language enthusiast, and for this certain video, it's mostly a quick practical tutorial or the philosophy of how to actively listen. Because when people are usually actively listening, they don't really think about how to do it. It's more of you listen and you get results. That's technically what the normal person would assume and say. But active listening is the act of listening and reading simultaneously, or the act of focusing very intensely at a certain point for a certain amount of time to to attain listening comprehension. Okay, but because in language learning, listening comprehension is mostly the result of all the hard work and listening that you do. Because strategy really matters, and I'm just gonna give you a quick idea and mentality you need to start listening. Basically, there's about 3 points or 3 types of approaches, but I categorized them between beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Basically, for the first part of active listening, you have the beginner approach. This is basically when you're at a point in the beginning stage that you're focusing every single word, because every word is known to be unknown to you because it's practically new. And technically, what the average approach for this case is to translate one at a time. For example, when you hear the first word and you don't recognize it, then you would hear it and then repeat the audio and then go back and forth. For example, if you hear the word 如果, okay, but we hear it, you don't know what it means. Okay, so that means first you have to translate that into your native language and get the translation. After that, once you hear it, then you have to rewind that part and then hear it again. And that's pretty much when, okay, 如果, and then repeat, and then you hear that word plus the word after that. So basically, you hear one word and then go to the next and go to the next. This is technically the beginner approach, but this specific approach can also be advanced if you were to learn more advanced words, because those are very picky. But it's just an approach, and I think this is a beginner because this is what everyone has to go through, that you're translating every single word in the beginning, especially for a language that's categorized as category 5 in FSI, which is Mandarin Chinese in this case. This approach is very useful in the beginning stage, and it's what you'll be using most of the time. The intermediate approach is what I call the hunt and pray. Basically means that you heard certain words and your hearing comprehension is decent enough that you can recognize certain words, but you have the few words you don't have. An example in this quick sentence, the white represents all the words that you heard before and you can understand it, but then you hear it, the rest, and some words you don't really understand, that's the red. And these are the words you have not heard of or have not learned yet. Learned in this case as in you heard it, translate it, and then you rewind and keep hearing over and over until your brain can acquire the language naturally. And this approach is going to be your most common approach, especially when you're in the intermediate stage in the plateau, because in this stage, every word is more known or unknown, and you have to be very careful because some words you might know and some words you don't know. And your brain, you have to figure out consciously which words are known and which ones are not known. Basically, for example, if you have applications such as Link, then you're able to mark which words are known when you read it, but when you're listening, you have to use that translation to help you guide you towards listening, because this entire setup could be when you're watching a YouTube video and you have all the subtitles set up. Okay, this is just to help you understand that some words are going to be known to you and some words are not, and you have to learn how to differentiate which words are not known and known. And this is a very good approach because you're pretty much, you know, some of it, but you're trying to nitpick and hunt for certain words so that you know next time you hear it, you understand. And then the final approach, let's call it the sentence focus. This is more of an advanced approach. Once you pass almost the intermediate stage or almost getting out of it, you pretty much can hear every word, you can hear every sound, and you have an idea what it could mean. But basically, this is the comprehensible inputs realm that you have to now convert all the known words you have heard before individually into a sentence, translate the sentence in your mind, and if it doesn't match, then you would try to get the whole sentence and translate. And then the thing is, within the sentence, you might hear some things that you might not know, and then you'll pretty much just find the leaks and the points that you have not learned yet. The certain words, I mean. Yeah. For example, if you heard a whole sentence, okay, you can, and then you translate goods, and now you can compare that if you were to get that, put that sentence in Google Translate and start comparing, then you have a pretty much a good grasp of the language and the sentences at this point. Pretty much this approach is you hear the entire sentence, and if you think something's off, then there might be one word you don't know, you just read back the subtitle, get that word that you have not learned yet, and simply learn and rewind. Yeah, pretty much these are the three specific approaches that I recommend. That I don't think on YouTube there's anyone that even focusing on active listening, practical approaches. So basically, I want to recap. The beginner approach is what I call one at a time, when you're hearing one word at a time. Realistically, you'll be hearing this when you first start talking to native speakers because you're trying to catch every single word, because one word can throw off the entire context and drive you off course. And this is very important because every native speaker you talk to, you want to get as much information as you can, translate it, and then you want to talk back to the person, respond to them. So you need to get as accurate as possible that you don't feel embarrassed or get embarrassed when they don't understand what you're saying. Intermediates, this is pretty much what you're mostly going to be using. That's, you're going to hear some words you recognize and then the words you don't. You're pretty much going to have to hear it and then translate the words you don't know and rewind the audio to hear those sentences with the words you have not, and then try your best to translate. And then when you are sleeping, for example, it will process and categorize and organize all the information so that the next time you hear it, you're going to think, oh, okay, it suddenly just occurred, and I don't know how I learned it, but it just happened. Basically, at this stage, you could be doing this a lot more, and it's very common to use this approach, and I call this the hunt and pray, because you're hunting for certain words you don't know, and you need to find out where it is in the sentence when you hear it for the first time. Advanced approach, the sentence focus. Within this stage, you pretty much get the grasp of most of the words, like maybe 80 to 90% or 100, and you just try to find the leaks, the remaining leaks, and you try to fill it in. And at this point, you're pretty much able to talk to native speakers, but there's always one word that you don't know, and then that's what you have to figure out. And yeah, this is within active listening. A small tip I can give is that when you're watching a video, for example, YouTube video with subtitles, try your best not to look at the subtitles at first, because that will give you the subconscious translation or attempt, and it give you like a spoiler, like in a movie trailer. Yeah, you don't want that. You pretty much try to ignore looking at the subtitles as much as possible, and then once you hear the sentence, you understand it, okay, then move on. Otherwise, go rewind the audio and then try again. And that's simply the three approaches for active listening. And yep, thank you very much for your time.